The gnawing in Kale's belly is an old friend, a dull-toothed scavenger that has been chewing on his insides for the turnings of the moon. His clan, the Sunstone people, are a scattering of gaunt figures huddled in a rock shelter that all comfort from the wind's endless shearing. The great cold has locked the land in a fist of ice, and the herds have vanished. They are eating scraps of dried lichen and boiled leather, a slow, grinding starvation that hollows the eyes and silences the children. This is the brutal calculus of prehistoric life for these early humans. The world is a vast, empty plate. Kale, the clan's lead scout, carries the weight of their 37 empty stomachs on his shoulders. He and 2 others have pushed farther into the grey wasteland than ever before, a desperate cast of a fishing line into a frozen sea. Their ancient tools, consisting of flint-tipped spears and stone axes, feel pitifully small in a world defined by its sheer, deadly scale. It is a scent that finds him first. Not of living prey, but something older, richer. The faint, greasy odor of old fat, frozen deep in the soiland clinging to the rock. He follows it to the edge of a great fissure, a wound in the earth that runs for miles. On one side, the land falls away into a wide, windswept basin. On the other, it rises into a sheer cliff face of shattered granite. The fissure itself narrows, a natural funnel carved by some forgotten glacier. As his eyes trace its path, he sees them, bones. Not the scattered remains of a single kill, but thousands. A river of bone, bleached white and half-buried in the permafrost. The massive, curved tusks and broad pelvic arches of woolly mammoths, the tangled antlers of giant elk, the horned skulls of ancient bison. The ground is a graveyard and a map, a testament to a truth so profound it makes him dizzy with hope. This is not a random killing field. This is a road, a highway of flesh. The tracks, ancient and fresh, all lead into the narrowest part of the ravine. Cal scrambles down the scree slope, his worn leather boots finding purchase. The air in the passage is still, shielded from the wind. He runs a hand over the rock wall, scored and polished smooth by the passage of countless immense bodies. He understands. This is a choke point. The great megafauna, driven by instincts older than any hominid history, are forced through this passage during their migration. The valley is a weapon, a gift from the indifferent earth. Here, a handful of hunters could stand on the cliffs above and strike down with impunity. Here a clan could have met for a lifetime. He looks at his companions, their faces skeletal in the flat, grey light, and sees the same wild spark of desperate revelation in their eyes. They have not found a meal. For the first time in a season, the Sunstone clan is not hungry. They have made their first kill in the valley, a young woolly rhinoceros cornered in a dead-end ravine. The hunters, using the high ground to their advantage, rained spears down upon its back until it fell. The smell of roasting fat now hangs in their shelter, a sacred incense against the lingering ghost of starvation. Their osteodontocratic technology expands, rhino horn is sharp, its hide thick, but Kale does not share in the relief. He sits on a high ledge overlooking the valley entrance, his gaze sweeping the horizon. His foresight, the instinct that found this place, now screams a warning. This sanctuary is too perfect. In a starving world, a full belly is a beacon. And he knows they are not the only human ancestors desperate enough to search the wastes. His fears are given form 3 suns later. They are not a beast of horn or claw, but a flicker of movement on the distant ice fields. Figures, upright loping, hunched against the wind. Another kin group. They move with the same haggard desperation Kale recognizes in his own soul. He watches as they find the entrance to the valley, their caution turning to visible, as they discover the same boneyard that had promised him salvation. There are 5 of them, scouts for what must be a larger clan. They are the Ghost Rocks, a people known for their ferocity and their bad luck, driven from their own lands by the advancing ice. The 2 groups stare at each other across 500 yards of frozen ground. No threats are made, no spears raised, none are needed. The Ghost Rocks see the wisp of smoke from the Sunstone camp. They smell the lingering scent of cooked meat. They see the valley. Their claim is in their hollow eyes. The Sunstones is in their defensive posture. The Ghost Rocks retreat, melting back into the grey landscape, but the silence they leave behind is heavier than any war cry. The clan must make a hard choice. Elara, the clan's oldest mother, speaks for leaving. "This is a bad place," she rasps, her voice thin as a winter reed. "It turns kin against kin. We take what meat we can carry and go. The spirits of the ancestors do not mold this." But Torvian, a powerful hunter whose child was the last to die from the hunger, slams the butt of his spear against the cave floor. "Go where? Back to eating our boots. This valley is our life. We hold it. The debate is a fire that threatens to consume them. To stay is to invite a war they may not survive. To leave is to embrace a death they know is certain." Kale, feeling the weight of their future, finally speaks. "We stay, but we do not fight in the open." He points to the narrowest part of the chokepoint. "We fight here. We use the walls that the mammoths use. They begin their work, not just sharpening spears but preparing the atlat, the spear thrower that can turn a man's arm into a deadly engine. It is a grim preparation, an acknowledgement that the greatest threat to their evolution is no longer the beasts of this prehistoric world, but themselves." The ghost rocks return when the sun is a pale smear in the sky. They are not scouts now, but a desperate horde, 20 strong, their faces grim masks of hunger and resolve. They carry heavy clubs fashioned from mammoth femurs and spears, tipped with fire-hardened wood, an austere ontocratic arsenal born of utter necessity. They advance into the valley's mouth, a silent, shuffling tide of stacked stones. The Sunstone clan waits. Kale watches them come, his heart a cold stone in his chest. This is the moment, the bloody fulcrum on which their survival turns. He gives the signal, a sharp, bird-like whistle. The air fills with a sound like tearing cloth as a dozen atlat-thrown spears up down from the cliffs. They strike with lethal force, punching through thick hides and shattering bone. 3 of the ghost rocks fall without a sound. The charge falters, confusion turning to rage. They are too far into retreat. Their leader, a giant of a man with a face like a scarred boulder, roars and points his club toward the sunstone position. The ghost rocks surge forward, trying to close the distance, to turn the ambush into a brawl where their numbers can tell. Rocks prepared for this rain down, crushing limbs and skulls, but the desperation of the attackers is a force of nature. They absorb the losses and keep coming, scrambling up the scree slope, their faces contorted with the will to live, or to die trying. The battle becomes a close, brutal thing. Torvian, fighting with the fury of a father who has buried a child, brings his stone axe down on the head of a ghost rock climber. The sound is a wet crack that echoes in the sudden silence of the struggle around him. He stands over the body, heaving, and sees not an enemy, but a man gaunt and hollow-cheeked like he himself had been just weeks ago. The ghost rock leader reaches the top of the barricade, his roar of triumph cut short as Kale's spear takes him through the throat. He topples backward, a silent, falling giant, and with him, the will of the ghost rocks breaks. The survivors turn and flee, leaving their dead scattered on the blood-soaked stones of the valley floor. The sunstones of the valley floor. The valley is theirs, but as they look down from their perch at the still forms of their own kind, there is no celebration. The meat they have secured will feed them through the winter, but every bite will taste of this day. This is a terrible milestone in the long, slow march of human evolution, a victory that feels more like a wound. The Sunstone clan survives the great cold. They feast on mammoth and bison, their children grow strong, and their numbers swell. But the valley, their great prize, is also their prison and their shame. The ghosts of the slain kin group haunt the choke point, a silent testament to the moment survival required the spilling of their own blood. This event, lost to the deep currents of prehistory, is a foundational one. It is a grim lesson in the anthropology of survival when resources are finite and desperation is absolute. The line between us and them is drawn in blood. This was not a war for glory or gods, but for the simple, brutal right to eat. And in that bloody snow, a blueprint was drawn, the tactics of ambush, the use of terrain as a weapon, the concept of exclusive territory. These are the seeds from which the vast, terrible tree of human warfare will grow. But over a shared innocence, a loss that would echo down through every generation of Homo sapiens to come. How much of what we call civilization is built upon the foundation of such forgotten, bloody valleys? This is the chronicle of our ascent, written not in ink, but in the marrow of bone. And yet, some bones tell stories of more than just death.